Formula 1 is returning to Las Vegas, where the track will include the iconic Vegas Strip. Welcome to another episode of the 5 Red Lights F1 podcast. My name is Aaron Harper, and today I'll be telling you why I think the Las Vegas Grand Prix will be a hit. Before I do that, make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast on Spreaker, Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you find the podcast. Find my socials on Twitter at 5_red_lights or Instagram at 5redlights. And check out my blog site www.5redlights.wixsite.com/5RL podblog. Let's have a look at the layout then, and I'll explain why I think it's going to be great. So here we are with the image of the layout of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It does look a little bit like an upside down animal. Some people have referenced it to like a pig or maybe a cow or something. So it does look a bit odd, doesn't it? But no matter what shape it is, as long as it gives us good racing, I'm sure we can get over that. Now, the first thing that we should note is that they are resurfacing the strip, which is the bit from turn 9 to turn 11. That really long straight bit there. Well, the straight with a little kink of turn 10, flying past all the hotels with all the lights. It's going to be really, really fast, getting north of 300 clicks. Now, the fact that they're resurfacing the bumps is slightly disappointing, but also it might be beneficial because it would feel a bit more street circuity to me. If they kept the bumps, it would make the cars feel really alive, I think. And okay, maybe going that fast, if they hit a bump, they could lose control, and we don't want to see that. But it would make it much more of a challenge to set the car up properly to avoid that bumping and potential porpoising issues. I mean, hopefully all the teams are on top of the porpoising by whenever we go there next year. But I think resurfacing it will actually help with the braking into turn 11. Now, we can't actually see what profile turn 11 has. I'm assuming by the fact that it's so close to turns 12 and 13, it's a little bit like the old triple chicane at Abu Dhabi, where there was the long straight and then the left, right, left sequence. So that'll be interesting, and we'll see how things pan out there. But that big braking zone needs to be providing the driver's confidence and the ability to stop appropriately to pull off those overtakes. And overtaking is something that's going to be really, really important. So the potential overtaking spots that I've sort of noted down are turn 1, turn 5, and of course into turn 11, 12. See that sequence of corners, see what profile they've got. Obviously these are the big stops, and they are the primary overtaking spots. And okay, turn 11 is at the end of a long straight. Turn 1 is at the end of a long straight with a kink in it, a fairly hefty kink of turn 14. And the profiling of the first few corners is quite interesting. It's similar to Portimao. Slightly different, of course, not quite as high speed. But think about Portimao. That turn 1 was a high speed right-hander. The second corner, a little bit of an arc to the right before the bigger stop into turn 3. And that produced some quite interesting racing. So turn 1, if you get up the inside, if you overcook it, then someone's going to come back through into turn 2, but maybe they'll battle it out through 3 and 4 down towards turn 5. That could be quite interesting there, and especially the fact that these cars follow so well, it could play into some really good racing. And of course, turn 5, yes, it's a 90-degree right-hander, but we've seen overtakes into 90-degree corners before. Just think back to Ayrton Senna and Jean Alesi in the USA all those years ago. I think that was Detroit. I may be wrong on that. Maybe wrong. Correct me in the comments if you know the answer to that one. But of course, they battled through 90-degree corners back then, and it was superb racing. Of course, turn 5 will probably be at the end of a DRS zone, so that will make that corner a little bit more straightforward for the overtake, as will turn 11. Although I hope that DRS isn't from just after turn 10. What I would actually like to see is where you see the model of the Eiffel Tower on the right hand side, maybe have it somewhere before then, just before that, so that DRS becomes not the be all and end all. You follow in the slipstream, and if you're making the move, you get the DRS and it's done. But if you're not quite close enough to make the move, you get that little boost of DRS, and it might put you in contention into the big braking zone of turn 11. So you really have to weigh up, with the DRS open, are you still close enough to go for the move, or are you just going to send it? So that's an interesting tactic that the drivers have to use and think about. And we've seen them using the DRS tactically already this season. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen giving us a brilliant battle in Saudi Arabia and one in Bahrain as well. That was very good too. But they were playing chicken in Saudi Arabia, which was all sorts of fun to see and very funny. Now, these new regulation cars are really, really important for this track, because if we had brought the old generation here, it just wouldn't be possible. Yes, you'd maybe get some overtakes into turn 11, but the field would get strung out through the long left-hand turn 6. Just think it's reminiscent of the third corner at Sochi. And then through 7 and 8, they'd probably lose too much ground, and you'd have to have a massive DRS zone. These cars are following much, much better. And if we think back to Jeddah, the cars were following very closely, and of course that's the most recent race at the time of recording, and it was very apparent that the cars were much closer through the fast corners. That S's section in the opening sector, and then they stayed there even with the help of DRS to get their attacks in. We saw the Alpines battling through laps, and it was fantastic, because not only was Fernando able to stay close, he was able to then mount an attack, and even if it didn't work out, he could keep going. The tyres were hanging on with him, and this is an important combination in terms of the ability to follow and the tyres not overheating. So Pirelli are doing a good job there, and if they can maintain that and these cars can improve on their ability to follow, then we could be set for some really, really exciting action. And that turbulent air, that dirty air, is going to be much less of an issue, because these new cars are so less sensitive to it. So you think that long turn 6 into a fast flowing 7-8 before a big stop into turn 9, that's going to allow the cars to be really close onto the strip. And if someone makes a mistake, we're going to have cars side by side down the strip, down towards turn 11. Okay, maybe DRS will be involved, but, and this is just something that I've thought about, maybe you have a double DRS zone on the strip. So you have one out of turn 9, which finishes just before turn 10. So maybe someone makes a move there, but then between turns 10 and 11, there is a break in the DRS, a new detection point, and then you can reopen DRS. So it'll be really interesting, because if you get the run on an opponent early on in the lap, or in the straight even, then you might end up being on the defensive towards the end of the straight. It's so fast and so long, this straight. They could do lots of things with it. I just hope they do something interesting with it rather than just a bog standard massive DRS zone. But I think by that point we'll be on top of how these cars work with DRS and how big or small the zones need to be. And that run from the strip will be absolutely stunning from turn 9 to turn 11. The glitz and the glamour will be like Monaco, but it's going to be Monaco on steroids because of all the lights and the nighttime and the party atmosphere. It's just going to be absolutely incredible. I think this track with this generation of car is actually going to be really, really good. It's not going to be at an appropriate time really for us guys in the UK or in Europe, but to be honest, we have been thoroughly spoilt over the years in terms of having races at what you might call a more convenient time. But as a long-time F1 fan, I remember as a child getting up in the early hours, 3-4 in the morning, to watch the season opener down under in Melbourne, and that was one of the most exciting things of my youth, was getting up and watching the Formula 1. It was dark here. It was just a completely different vibe, and that's fine. That is good fun, because you get this completely different atmosphere to how you have to watch it. and then you still have the rest of the day to do what you need to do. And if that's make podcasts and talk about the race, then that's what you've got extra time to do. Overall, I think it's a simple track, but I think it's going to be a really, really good one. It's going to be so much fun to watch as a fan. If you can get out there and be there, I mean, you'd come back with no money, but it would just be such a life experience to put Vegas and Formula One together. Wow, what a absolute bucket list ticker that is. So there you have my thoughts on the Las Vegas Grand Prix track layout. Of course, this may all change because who knows, that's just the way things are in Formula One from time to time. But it's going to be really interesting to see the cars going around there. It's going to be so exciting with all the lights and all the glamour. What celebrities are going to be there? I mean, everyone is going to want to be at this race. It's the drivers are excited. I'm sure the teams are excited. The mechanics are going to have an absolute field day. If the stories that I've read and heard of about mechanics in Formula One is anything to go by, it's going to be absolutely spectacular, and I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's split opinion, but I'm really looking forward to it. So let me know your thoughts either by sending me a tweet, commenting on the YouTube video, or just getting in touch in some other way, and we can chat the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's all for today. The checkered flag is waving on another episode. Check out my socials. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the podcast, and I will see you when the 5 red lights go out.